Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and it's time for another late review. This time, Rise of the Tomb Raider. I played it on the Xbox One. The story is fairly awesome. Lara Croft has grown a lot as a character since the first game. I mean, that really was kind of the purpose of the first game. She's no longer that scared girl wandering the wilderness trying to get things done. She now knows what she needs to do, or if she doesn't, she can find out what she needs to do, and she'll do it. This time around, her goal is to prove that her father basically wasn't an insane person. To do so, she's become an archaeologist, adventurer type person, and she's willing to risk it all to prove that he wasn't crazy. She's following the historical footsteps of a man known as the Prophet, and there's some pretty interesting myths behind this guy, and she wants to know if there's some kind of crazy, powerful artifact. Unfortunately for her, she's also dealing with the fact that she's the only person in this game that she knows who understands that there are crazy, mystical things in the world. Unfortunately for her, she's not the only person in the world who understands that there's crazy, mystical crap out there, and they're going to cause some serious problems for her. They are specifically a group called Trinity, and they're extremely well-funded, extremely fanatical, and extremely dangerous. As for the sound design, it was great. When you were in the wilderness, you really did feel like you were in the wilderness. The gun sounds, the animal sounds, the nature sounds, all of it sounded really, really good. To go along with that, the voice acting was really good as well, and it did exactly what I want all voice acting to do in video games, and that is enhance the story. As for the controls in this game, I think they're really good. They're what you want. You point in a direction, you shoot in that direction, it's gonna hit in that direction. You point where you want to jump, and you jump there. Mind you, you can think that that's where you're supposed to jump and jump in that direction and die, but she's going to jump where you want her to jump. The gameplay is great as well. It's not a huge departure from the previous game, but that's not a negative. They did add some neat things that I really enjoyed. They added more guns, they added a crafting system, and a trader. They added a few other gadgets as well. Not super important. I mean, you've got most of the same gadgets from the last game. More guns. Anyone who's watched any of my videos know that's always a plus in my mind. So you get a greater variety of bows, handguns, assault rifles, etc., etc. You can also do crafting on each individual gun to make them better. You can also craft different ammos for the different weapons. And as for the trader, there's a specific currency that you find throughout the game, and he will only accept that, and you can buy like 8 or 9 items from him, including 2 guns. One thing they also added was some side missions. So apart from those things, you've got your combat with enemies, you've got your exploring, and you've got your hunting. And of course, you've got the optional tombs to explore. I will say this, I don't remember how many tombs there were in the previous Tomb Raider, but for whatever reason, it felt like there were fewer in this game. I could be wrong on that, but because it felt that way, it feels like a bit of a drawback. But like I said, I could be completely wrong on that. The graphics were quite frankly amazing. It really felt like you were out in nature. The animals felt very real, and this will sound silly and stupid, but the hair in this game. I mean, look at Lara's ponytail in this game. It looks really good. You can see individual hair strands. And I know you could see that in the definitive edition of the previous game, as well as the PC edition, but it's still awesome. There was a ton of detail in both the characters and the world, and it just helped you feel like they were alive and that you were actually in this world. Now, on a side note, before I wrap this whole thing up, I want to address a comparison that a friend made between Uncharted and the new Tomb Raiders. They are similar in concept and a bit in gameplay. Tomb Raider is a much more open world experience, or at least the new Tomb Raiders are, in my opinion. I mean, the old Tomb Raiders, yeah, absolutely. Those can be compared to Uncharted easily. But what they've done with the new ones is give you a much more open world feel, and while it may not be the biggest open world, Uncharted does not really provide an open world feel. And the other biggest difference, in my opinion, is the tone of the games. The Uncharted franchise likes to be a little more comedic and lighthearted. Yes, they do go for the dramatic at times, but for the most part, I would say they're lighthearted, whereas the new Tomb Raiders have taken a much more dramatic turn. I won't go so far as to say dark, but I would say they are darker than the Uncharted franchise. Okay, now that I have addressed that, this game is a buy. It's worth full price. And for anyone who hasn't played it yet because they only own a PS4, it's worth the wait and it's worth paying for when it comes out. So in the comments below, why don't you tell me which your favorite Tomb Raider game is? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, subscribe. Have a good one.